There's a moment in everyone's day when a small event hits harder than it should. A sarcastic comment. A silent treatment. A message left unseen. And suddenly, your entire mood collapses. But here's the psychological twist almost nobody knows. That emotional impact lasts only 90 seconds, unless you keep it alive. Neurologically, that first flash of anger, hurt, embarrassment, or panic is simply your nervous system releasing stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline. And the brain, as brilliant as it is, clears that chemical surge in exactly a minute and a half. Everything after that? That's you. Your memory. Your story. Your replay. Your interpretation. In other words, you don't stay angry because something happened. You stay angry because you keep the story alive. Think of it like this: your brain is a smoke alarm. The toast burns. It beeps. That's the 90 seconds. But what most people do is make more toast. You replay the insult. You craft the perfect comeback. You rehearse the outrage. You create a narrative. They never respect me. People always treat me like this. I'm so tired of being walked over. And before you know it, 2 minutes became 2 hours. And 2 hours became a bad day. But here's the empowering truth. When you understand the 90-second rule, you stop being a prisoner of your reactions. You gain back your agency. You reclaim authorship over your emotional world. Because, like Viktor Frankl wrote from inside a concentration camp, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose. And yet most people never even notice that space. We think anger happens to us. We think frustration is caused by someone else. We think people poke us, trigger us, or push our buttons. Which leads to the first big illusion most adults live under. The button pusher myth. You are not a remote control. Nobody controls your emotional buttons. Nobody inserts feelings into your mind. They can provoke. They can stimulate. They can annoy. But the reaction? That is your domain. Jung said that whenever something triggers us intensely, it is not the external event we are reacting to, but a wound inside ourselves, an unintegrated part of the psyche he called the shadow. This is why two people can hear the same comment and respond completely differently. A sarcastic remark that devastates one person is irrelevant to another. The difference isn't the remark. The difference is the shadow it touches. So the next time someone pushes your buttons, ask, what part of me did they just reveal? What wound did they touch? What story did I just resurrect? Because the moment you begin to see your triggers as mirrors instead of attacks, your entire emotional world begins to shift. And this leads us directly to the second layer of this transformation. The secondary emotion secret, what your anger is really hiding. Most people believe anger is a primary emotion. It isn't. Anger is a bodyguard emotion, loud, intimidating, and always the first to show up at the door. But underneath anger, something far more delicate is hiding. Hurt. Fear. Shame. Disappointment. Abandonment. Anger is simply the protector. It steps forward so the real emotion doesn't have to. Psychologists call anger a secondary emotion, because it masks the vulnerable truth beneath it. And Jung understood this long before neuroscience confirmed it. He wrote that what we consciously express is often the opposite of what we truly feel. The ego prefers power over pain. It prefers certainty over soft spots. So it chooses anger. Think about the last time you exploded at someone. A partner forgot something important. A friend dismissed your feelings. A coworker took credit for your work. You felt angry, but what was the real emotion hiding underneath? Maybe it wasn't anger at all. Maybe it was. I feel invisible. I feel unappreciated. I feel unprotected. I feel like I don't matter. But those sentences are terrifying. They require vulnerability. They require truth. They require letting someone see the part of you you'd rather hide. So the psyche calls for anger. Anger is easier. Anger feels stronger. Anger keeps people at a safe distance. But it also keeps connection at a distance. Because anger pushes people away. Vulnerability brings them closer. This is where emotional mastery begins, not by suppressing anger, but by decoding it. The next time you feel angry, ask, what softer emotion is this protecting? It might surprise you. It might embarrass you. It might hurt. But this is where Jung's deeper teaching comes alive. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Your darkness isn't your anger. Your darkness is what anger hides. And when you name that hidden emotion, you stop being controlled by it. You start integrating it. You begin the real work of individuation. Let's make this real with a simple example. Your partner forgets your birthday. You lash out. How could you forget? You never care. But underneath the anger, there's the quiet truth. I felt abandoned. I felt unimportant. I felt like I don't matter to you. See the difference? The first statement attacks. The second reveals. One creates distance. One creates connection. And here is where your emotional evolution truly begins. Because when you learn to name the emotion underneath the anger, a door opens. A door to communication. A door to connection. A door to self-awareness. And once you understand what you're really feeling, you reach the next stage. The choice point. The moment between emotion and reaction. The moment when the 90-second wave has passed, and you decide what happens next. That's where we're going now. The choice point, your real superpower. There is a moment, small, almost invisible, where your entire emotional life pivots. It doesn't feel dramatic. It doesn't feel powerful. It doesn't even feel like a choice. But it is. It's the microsecond between trigger and reaction. Between the event and the story you tell yourself about the event. Between the emotion your body creates and the behavior your mind chooses next. Most people never notice this space. They explode before they even realize what hit them. But emotional mastery begins the moment you learn to see it. Jung understood this deeply. To him, consciousness was not just awareness, it was agency. The ability to pause, interpret, and then respond from the self rather than from the wounded ego. Viktor Frankl, living inside a Nazi concentration camp, made the same discovery. Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This space is what I'm calling the choice point. And once you learn to find it, your entire emotional life changes. How the choice point works. Imagine someone sends you a passive-aggressive message. Your body reacts instantly, your heart rate rises, your chest tightens, anger floods your brain. That part lasts 90 seconds. That's biology. But what happens after that is psychology. You can feed the anger. Replay the insult. Draft imaginary comebacks. Interpret their message as disrespect, betrayal, or attack. Or, you can step into the space and ask, what response will I be proud of tomorrow? That single question interrupts the old pattern. It activates the higher self, the observer, the conscious mind, the part Jung called the self rather than the ego's defensive reflexes. Most people have never practiced this pause. they go straight from trigger explosion. But when you learn to identify the choice point, something extraordinary happens. You stop behaving automatically. You stop reacting from wounds. You stop letting others control your inner state. You become the author of your own emotional experience. The two lives shift. People who master the choice point live two different lives. Life 1, the unconscious life. Triggers run the show. Old wounds shape behavior. Every reaction is a reenactment of the past. Life 2, the conscious life. You experience emotion without becoming it. You respond intentionally. You choose actions aligned with who you want to be. This difference, this tiny space, is the birthplace of emotional freedom. It's where individuation begins. A simple example. Your partner raises their voice. Your old pattern might be defend, counterattack, blame, shut down. But the choice point interrupts that. Something in me is being activated. I can feel the rise. But I still get to choose what happens next. This is the moment your future relationships transform. Not because the world becomes easier, but because you become different. In the next block, we'll go even deeper into the most powerful tool Jung aligned with emotional mastery. The observer self. The technique that teaches you to watch your emotions without being consumed by them. The observer self, how to feel everything without being controlled by anything. Imagine this for a moment. You're standing in the middle of a storm. Wind, rain, thunder, everything swirling around you. But instead of being swept away, you're simply watching it happen. Calm. Grounded. Present. That's what emotional mastery feels like. And this ability, this inner position, is what Jung hinted at throughout his work. He believed that true consciousness is the part of you that can observe your own emotions without becoming enslaved by them. This is what we call the observer self. It is the antidote to emotional hijacking. The skill that turns chaos into clarity. The perspective that collapses the distance between pain and wisdom. The observer self explained. You have two yous inside you. 1. The emotional you, impulsive, reactive, fast, primitive. 2. The observing you, calm, curious, steady, aware. Most people live trapped in the first one. Their emotions hit, and they immediately become them. I am angry. I am furious. I am offended. I am anxious. But the observer self shifts that into, I notice that anger is arising. I notice tension in my chest. I notice fear trying to speak. That tiny shift, from identity to observation, is the difference between drowning and floating. Because when you observe an emotion, you are no longer fused with it. You are witnessing it. And what you can witness, you can work with. What you can observe, you can choose. This is why Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The observer self is the part of you capable of making the unconscious conscious. How to use it in real life. Your teenager rolls their eyes at you. Instant irritation surges through your body. Old pattern, react immediately. New pattern. I notice irritation rising. I notice my breath tightening. I notice the urge to snap back. Now you've created space. Just enough space to choose the response you'll be proud of. Or imagine you receive a harsh message from someone. Old response. They're disrespectful. I need to respond now. Observer self-response. I notice hurt. I notice defensiveness. Let me wait until this passes. This is emotional immunity. Not absence of emotion, but non-reactivity. Jung saw this as the path to individuation, becoming the integrated version of yourself rather than a puppet of your conditioning. The observer makes you feel more, not less. Some fear that observing emotions makes life dull or detached. It's actually the opposite. When you observe emotions, you feel them more accurately, more cleanly, more deeply, without distortion, without projection, without spiraling, without unconscious reenactment of old wounds. Emotions become information instead of identity, signals instead of storms, visitors instead of permanent residents. This is how people develop inner stability. Not by suppressing emotions, but by learning to watch them. In the next block, we take this to the final level. How to use difficult people, conflicts, and boundaries to build emotional strength rather than lose it. Ready? The integration blueprint, turning knowledge into emotional power. Here's the truth about emotional mastery that nobody tells you. It's not about never being triggered again. It's about becoming someone who transforms every trigger into awareness, every conflict into clarity, and every emotion into information. You've learned the mechanics. The 90-second flush. The hidden emotions beneath anger. The choice point. The observer self. Now comes the part Jung cared about most. Integration. Because knowing all this intellectually doesn't change your life. Living it does. Integration is the bridge between understanding and transformation. And this is where the real evolution begins. Difficult people are not blockers, they are mirrors. Jung famously said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Think about what that means. Every difficult person in your life is revealing something. A wound. A boundary issue. A fear. An unhealed part. An unmet need. A forgotten truth. Your micromanaging boss. Your emotionally unavailable partner. Your dramatic friend. The stranger who cuts you off. The parent who still triggers you at 40. None of them are random. None of them are accidents. They are emotional mirrors showing you exactly where your unconscious still runs the show. And when you learn to respond consciously instead of reactively, you break the old pattern that kept you trapped. This is individuation, Jung's word for becoming the full, integrated version of who you are meant to be. Boundaries, the gatekeeper of your inner world. Most people misunderstand boundaries. They think boundaries are about keeping people out. But boundaries are not walls. They're filters. Boundaries protect your energy, your peace, and your emotional clarity, so you can actually stay connected without drowning. A boundary is simply the truth about what you can hold and what you can't. I can talk about this, but not when you're yelling. I want to help, but I need clarity. I care about you, but I can't be your emotional landfill. When you create boundaries, you're not restricting life, you're structuring it. And boundaries, believe it or not, make you more loving, not less. Because your connection is no longer built on resentment or exhaustion, but choice. The final evolution, emotional freedom. This is the goal of all emotional mastery. To feel everything without being controlled by anything. To know your triggers but not bow to them. To sense the rise of anger but choose the truth beneath it. To meet conflict without losing yourself. To face difficult people without collapsing. To pause before reacting. To speak your boundaries clearly. To stay present in storms others drown in. To live from yourself, not your wounds. Jung believed that this is how the unconscious becomes conscious. Not through suppression, not through perfection, but through awareness, choice, presence, and truth. And when this becomes your way of living, you experience something rare. Inner stability. Inner clarity. Inner freedom. Most people never reach this stage because they stay trapped in the cycle of reaction. But you're not most people. You've seen behind the curtain. You now have the blueprint. If this message resonated with you, If you felt something click inside you, if you recognized patterns you're ready to break, then this journey is just beginning. Because emotional mastery isn't a skill. It's a practice, a path, a way of being. And every trigger from this point forward is not a setback. It's your next training session. If you want more videos that dive into Jung, emotional intelligence, human behavior, and inner transformation, subscribe. Comment your biggest insight. Share this with someone who needs it. And most importantly, choose consciousness. Choose clarity. Choose yourself.